hello, and welcome back to the podcast. Today we are answering another question that I'm personally totally invested in. The question for today's episode is there a way that real life experiences can outperform polished productions in the online business space in 2025? And beyond. And to answer this question, I've invited business strategist and host of the Crush the Rush podcast, Holly Haynes. Welcome to the show.
Yay. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like this is like a tall order to fill, but I'm excited to talk about
No,
it.
thanks so much for coming on. I'm just so intrigued with what you're going to share with us. So, what we're going to dive into today is Holly's in home retreat strategy and how stripping back that polish from online business has helped her build a business that is rooted in loyalty, transformation, and word of mouth growth. Before we dive in, though, I prefer my guests to share their journey in their own words because bios always make it a bit tricky and
Yeah.
impersonal. So have a go, quick version of where you
I know.
started
It's like,
and all
here's
the
your
things.
life story in
Yeah.
30 seconds. Well, I started my business in January of 2020 when I was 41. So I'm 46 now. I'd like to say I got a later start in the entrepreneur world because it wasn't really talked about in my family. It was not on the radar, not on the bingo card, was not a thing. And it started out actually as a leadership role in my corporate job. So I worked 22 years in corporate strategy. And the last couple of years, I worked in customer experience, which is where Nadine and I just like geek out over. And it started in a leadership role where I really was just looking for something that was a little more meaningful than working for Fortune 500 companies. I worked for the big consulting firms and I liked it. It wasn't a bad job, but it needed some meaning behind it. And so I started mentoring younger women in the business, and it became this sort of wow, like I can teach them certain things that I'm not sure that you could get from like a book or a seminar. And I really wanted to lean into that. So I leaned into, hey, let's maybe just start a podcast and talk about what we should do. And at the time, I had twin daughters who were 4. So starting a podcast was probably not the best idea. And then COVID hit. So now I'm in a very high stress, working for the C suite job, trying to figure out how to work from home. My girls, who were now in kindergarten, were homeschooling, which I am not a homeschooling mom. I appreciate everyone that does it, but that is not me. And then I'm like, oh, I had this idea of creating a podcast. And it literally came out the same day that COVID hit the United States. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, should I keep going? Long story short, the purpose of the podcast, Crush the Rush, would still exist today, was to just share behind the scenes of how I am able to grow and scale my career and still have a family. And we just were very organic about how we did it. And I had no expectations out of it. It was just supposed to be fun. And it took off. It was crazy. And so then I was like, oh, well, maybe I need a course or maybe I need to like do something. And so it kind of all stemmed from the podcast. And so today I really lean into business strategy, specifically talking about how to stack your income and how to have reoccurring revenue so that you can spend more time with your family and do things that you want to do instead of you start a business because you think it's going to be fun and then your time disappears very quickly. And so we really lean into this like life priorities first business model, which for us has allowed my husband to leave his job. I have left my job. And then we have a family rule where we travel once a quarter. So that's how we've been able to really position ourselves of like, let's really lean into we can control our calendar. And for me, that's the most important. So it all came from this like little podcast,
Little in inverted commas.
right?
It's like how quickly things spiral out of control. But
Yeah,
how awesome and amazing is the online space? I'm
it
still
is. It
fascinated
blows
with
my mind. Yeah.
how many opportunities it opens up for particularly women who just want more flexibility, who want to leave the corporate grind and have purpose and meaning. So such an inspiring story. And it just shows again that if you have an idea and you are strategic about it, it's totally possible to have a successful business without being tight to a desk 24/7 and hustling. I hate the word, but you know what I mean. Working
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you personally went through very similar experience to me, leaving the corporate world to build a holistic life that really works for you, gives you time for the family, for travel. I am curious to learn how you started considering retreats, and particularly retreats in your own home as a strategy in your business, and also how that shaped the client experience. Obviously, you come from a client and customer
Yeah.
experience background, but how that fit into the bigger picture of the business that you were trying to build.
Yeah. Well, for me, I think you create things that work for you because you want to share them. And for me, when I was working full time and now trying to scale a business, retreats were like life changing for me, not because of the retreat itself, because I could take myself away from the kids, the noise, the work, and I could 100% focus on, what's next, what's the strategy, like really step into that like CEO role. And so once I figured out that like courses were maybe not my thing, that I did much better teaching and talking in person and helping people more on like a hands-on basis, I was like, retreats have to be a thing. But I was still very new in business. Like the very first retreat that I hosted, I was still working full time. I took Friday off of work, hosted the retreat Saturday and Sunday, and then went back to work on Monday. And my boss was like, "What did you do this weekend?" And I was like, "I was at a leadership retreat." And, it was fine. It worked. And so I knew that the women that I wanted to help needed the time away to be able to see the progress that they wanted to see. But I also knew that I could create a really cool experience because I don't know. Some people love going to retreats where they're like dancing on stages and they're traveling to these like exotic places. All I wanted was like a quiet place where I could actually like write copy for a couple of weeks or actually think about what's the program that I want to launch and leave with something done instead of 17 pages of what I need to do. And so I really wanted to lean in to make it this like transformational weekend because that's what I wanted. Like that's where I learned the best and where I saw the biggest results.
It's always a great starting point if
Yeah.
what you create actually is what you would want to attend to. And as a mum of three, I can so relate. It is so hard to focus on your business among client work and family stuff and all the things.
Yeah.
So I am fascinated with retreats, but personally have always been put off by the hefty price tag because it is in
Yeah.
some five-star villa somewhere. It's overseas. Being in Australia, everything is expensive and far away. So I am really intrigued with that home component and bringing people
Yeah.
into something that is affordable for a lot more people as well.
Yeah, well, I think the thing that people forget is retreats are expensive to put on. I mean, in this economy, it's a lot. Like food is expensive and experiences are expensive. And was still a newer business owner. And so I was like, okay, how do I make a retreat affordable so that it is, I like to say, an easy yes? But also, how do I create an experience where I can do really cool things to, celebrate that you did take 3 days away from your family. So I want it to be a magical experience. And so what we found was, well, one, I really love to decorate and we've done a lot of work on our house. And so it was a really good excuse to like pull it together. But it saved us a lot of money and we were able to then invest in other types of experiences. So, everything from like sound baths to dinners to we do a full day of photography and B roll and bringing in content experts so that you leave like feeling inspired because you have a strategy, which will map out with you. You leave with actual like brand photos and B roll and content, and it's like ready to implement. Like you don't have to go home and say, okay, now I have 10 hours of work to do. And so by opening our house, it was kind of like how can I make this the best experience with what we have, like grassroots kind of thing. But on the back end of it, my clients kept requesting it more. Like we have traveled 3 times for a retreat, and every time we do, it's very fun. but everyone's like, "We really like your house. Can we go back to your house?" And I think it's just because, we're sitting by the fire. My kids are outside on the trampoline. I've had clients on our trampoline before. They want to come up and see my office. We're like taking pictures by this like little tiny desk that they're like, "Oh, this is where the podcast started." Like they see my kids get off the bus and it's very real life. And so we've been able to make it I would say not a luxury, but we do a lot of cool things inside of our house and outside of our house, but we're able to do it in a way where you're part of our family. And most of our clients come to 2 or 3 or 4 of the retreats because they know what to expect. They know my husband, they know our girls. They're asking me about my girls' dance classes, and it just becomes like, "Hey, I see Holly doing this and it's real life and I can do that too." And then we're like handing you the tools to do it.
It's fascinating because behind the scenes strategies, even in my business, people really crave behind the scenes. Look at
Mhm.
strategies
Mhm.
and how I run things because my business is somewhat out of the box. So I can imagine it just takes it to the next level to actually go physically
Yeah.
behind the scenes of the podcast that they're listening to, of the coach they're working in.
Yeah. Well, they're all surprised. They're like, "Your office is so small." And I
Yeah.
was like, "Well, we don't live in a mansion. It's like a normal suburban house."
See, it's
Um,
just burst the bubble, isn't it? Because the online space is full of so much pretends and facades. I just feel it's such a clever move to invite people into your space.
It's been cool because I've been able to highlight other local entrepreneurs. So like we'll have like a chef come to our house, but it's somebody local. And then we can like tag them and we can highlight them. Or we'll have speakers come to our house. Most of the time it's someone local. So like we can highlight their business. Or I had a client actually who owned like a boutique clothing store. And so we did like an event at her clothing store where we brought in the speaker, but it was like in her store. And so then it's like highlighting my clients and my businesses that are around us. And it's like this, what's the word? The effect where like all of us succeed because we're all sort of like helping each other. And it's been really fun to bring in other business owners as well.
Yeah, such a generous approach as well. So rather
Hmm.
than, taking it elsewhere, keeping it
Yeah.
local, featuring local businesses. I'm curious, as someone who has messy kids and my house isn't
Yes.
probably as polished as it should be. Did you have any fears around inviting people into your space and into your everyday?
I mean, it is more work because you do have to, I mean, it is cleaned and updated and organized. Like I definitely make sure of that. But we kind of I mean, we've hosted 8 retreats and 5 of them, we're going on our 6th, have been at our house. And so the family kind of knows. They know like when it's retreat season that okay, we got to like the toys go in the basement for a minute and the countertops have to be clean for a minute. But it's also been really fun. I mentioned that I like decorating. Like we host one of our retreats in the fall in Ohio, which is the Midwest, and it's like pumpkins and leaves and all the things. Well, that just became a business expense. So I now have an entire bin of like pumpkins and like stuff that I love. And so everyone gets kind of excited about it. Our house gets a little like glow up. But I mean, my girls come in from the bus and they're like sweaty and noisy and they're like doing Irish dance lessons in the backyard. So I mean, some of it is very real life.
People appreciate it though, I'm sure. And those people who attended your retreats will be fans for life, right? Because they've seen you
Yeah.
behind the scenes and on a whole different level. I know you touched on all the pumpkins and the little
Yeah.
intricate details of your event. Do you have any other tips for creating one of a kind experiences that your attendees are going to talk about for years to come so it doesn't blend into all the other retreats or all the other events they've attended?
Yeah, the first thing that I like to do is have some pre-work because I think the biggest difference between the retreats that we host and others that I've seen is like you'll walk away with like a done for you plan. It's like ready to implement. So it is very fun and we do fun things, but also we're like getting to work and so you have time to work on your revenue plan and your content plan going forward. And that's not possible unless you're prepared. And so before the retreat, it's really important that we sort of like I call it the on ramp. Like if you're driving on a highway, like it's really important that you know like what to expect, what to pack, what to wear, what to bring with you. Is there any like quick videos that you need to watch? Sometimes we have a call with our content director so that she's talking about like, hey, we're going to be filming video. So maybe wear your brand colors, or maybe plan for XYZ. And so that sort of that pre-work, it's not a lot. Like you don't want it to be overwhelming, but it's enough to just get people thinking about like, okay, I'm strategically taking this time. Like I want to make the most out of it. So that's one. And then I mean, in the customer experience world, it's called surprise and delight. Like we don't tell you all the things that are happening. So we did like a really cool sound bath at a spa here in Columbus. And then they did this like intuitive card reading at the end of our retreat. And the lady that did it is now like a part of our retreat long term because everyone loved it so much. But I don't tell them like what she's going to do or like how we're going to do it. So there are things that are just a surprise. We hosted our fall retreat. I actually rented out a barn at a farm and they had like goats and Highland cows and chickens. And it's like what you would expect out of the Midwest, but obviously it's not at our house. And so we try to like layer in these like little surprises where you're just like, oh, wow, I can't believe she thought of that kind of thing. And I think people come to appreciate that and are waiting to see like, what's the thing? Like, what's the next thing that you're going to come up with?
What's waiting for us?
Yeah.
But yeah, surprise and delight is I'm a huge fan. You just keep people intrigued and coming back for more. What I love about your approach is as well that you get buy-in from your attendees beforehand. Not only do they know what to expect, but you are helping them answer any question, any doubt, any hesitation that might come up in the lead up and really make them feel totally at ease when they show up because someone's talked to them. They know what is expecting them to an extent without the surprise and delight elements. But I think it's just such an important part to a retreat because you don't want to feel out of your depth. Some people also, introverts, hello, that's me, struggle with the idea of having to be with a lot of people for a lengthy period of time. So I think just giving people peace of mind is such a smart move in advance.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, and something that I've learned through doing like different assessments on our attendees, like personality assessments, is figuring out like what type of, we like the Enneagram a lot, or human design, like what type of different people we have, and being intentional about, okay, this is group time, but then here's a break where you can, one, do the homework, or two, if you just need to like reset, that's okay too. Because it is a lot of togetherness, which I think people like. But I think, as the retreat coordinator, like understanding who you have coming, what their goals are. And we do a survey before they get here, and then we do a survey after so that we can incorporate that into future retreats as well.
So smart because your audience always knows best. And if you're not listening to them, you're just wasting your time, their time. And even if there's feedback you don't want to hear, it is
I know. I have to give
ultimately,
myself a day after
yeah.
to review it.
It can hurt, I can imagine, especially if you have people in your house, in your place. But I always look at feedback as an opportunity for growth. Like it does hurt if someone isn't 100% on board, but it often comes from a place of generosity, doesn't it? They do want you to succeed and be more prepared next time. So, hosting retreats in your home obviously isn't scalable. It's not something you can scale to hundreds of people unless you have a farm. But yeah, 99% of us don't. So, this non scalable approach to customer relationships, to supporting your clients, obviously doesn't bring in unlimited income into your business. Is there anything else that it can scale for you in different aspects of your business?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. I mean, I think anytime you travel, you host a retreat, you go to a retreat, you are doing something different, people pay attention. And so there's a lot of marketing for us that comes out of the retreat, and we're super intentional about how we capture it. Making sure that we do like a lot of videos and a lot of things during that weekend. So it's almost like we're batching content when we have clients here, which has been really helpful for me just as a business owner. But the other cool sort of impact to this is the word of mouth marketing, which is very grassroots and very sort of local, but we're highlighting local businesses. So now people know who we are and what we do, but we're also highlighting other business owners who are here. And they're highlighting us. And so there's this kind of like external marketing factor that happens when you do the retreats. Retreats are a great referral source for us because people talk about it. And so that is, I think, scalable. And then we have a lot of repeat clients. So I mentioned that I think we've had one client that has been to 4 retreats. And I'm pretty sure she's coming back for another. And she's just like, I love them. They're part of my yearly routine. And so there's like baby scales, maybe, that happen. But a lot of it is just visibility and word of mouth, which is great. And I think it's also as a leader in the business, it's a great time to like practice new material. So if I have an idea for something, like I can get feedback and I'm presenting it to a small group. And so it's a little like test ground, which is really fun.
You don't even think about that, like testing mini beta
Yeah.
rounds of new content. So cool. And I feel like we're often discounting those intimate, non-scalable experiences in the online space because we're all told that if it doesn't bring in thousands of new subscribers, it's a waste of time. But as you said, it's that snowball effect where people have an amazing experience. They talk to their friends and then they tell someone about this retreat they heard of from their business buddy. It's just this beautiful, genuine word of mouth snowball effect that comes from it. If you had to give someone advice for those, particularly introverts, who potentially go, I want to stay digital first, and I'm just not game enough to go all in on in-person retreats. Do you have any tips how they can infuse some of those human elements into virtual experiences as well?
Yeah. So, I think as an introvert, you kind of have to set boundaries. I'm super into human design and I'm a 2-4. And I can't remember if it's a 2 or 4, but one of them is a hermit, which means after their retreat, like you won't see me for 3 weeks. Like I need like quiet to recharge. And so I don't know if this is a tip for how to do it, but I think understanding like how you recharge if it's something challenging is really helpful because once I learned that, I was very strategic about setting aside time after the retreat or before the retreat because I knew it was going to take a lot of my energy. So that was kind of a game changer, but I think you have to start small. Don't start with like a 4-day event at your house. Like start with a 1 hour coffee date once a month where you're talking with somebody that has a similar business or similar ideas. And then it can sort of morph into more. I also think like ask your audience because if you are an introvert and you do something online, chances are your audience is going to crave something that you're craving as well. And so I think it's important to ask your audience and then start with a baby step. Maybe it's like I have clients that will do like a local happy hour because I truly believe that if you do something in person, you're going to get a quicker result than if you have a 17-step funnel. So I always say like just do a happy hour or go to a local business and like partner with somebody and do something together. So it's like not all on you. I mentioned the boutique client that I had. We had it's called Rocks here, but it's like a girls leadership charity. So we had them there and then we had the women's boutique and it was a happy hour. And so you can do things that are just like little baby experiences and then see like what resonates and then move into sort of a bigger experience.
Yeah, I love this because we often think we have to go from 0 to 100 because everyone else is doing it, right?
I'm working full
So,
time. I could totally host a 3-day retreat. It's fine.
yeah, of course. See, you did. But yeah, listening to your gut, I think, is important, but also your audience. As you said, there's no point even planning something that doesn't resonate with your audience. So many things to consider if you're considering hosting some sort of in-person event. I think taking what Holly has said and picking what works and resonates with you here is a great idea because in person I'm a total fan. It just goes so much deeper than online, and while it's not always possible to go local because global economy, there I'm sure are people in your local space that would love to catch up with you and learn from you in person.
Yeah,
So
100%.
before we wrap up, Holly, I'm asking all my listeners this one question. What is one burning customer experience question that you would like either myself or a guest expert that I'd organize to answer for you?
Yeah, gosh, I love customer experience so much. I'm really curious what you're seeing from a customer experience perspective, specifically with emails, because I feel like I always say I feel like we're sending more and more emails now, which I like. I mean, I like sending emails, but like, what's the experience that you're seeing that's like resonating now with emails?
So good. I've got so much to say on this. Let me see whether I invite someone or we both give our perspective. Let's see. So good. Awesome. So for those listeners who are totally intrigued with your approach on business, your in-home retreats, where can they find you and connect with you online?
Yeah. So the best way, actually, and Nadine, you'll appreciate this. So we have a private podcast called Ditch the Social Drama, and it goes into sort of our like organic marketing, which is super similar to what we do with the retreats. And it's just hollymariehaynes.com/social. We've got some grassroots marketing episodes on there and some client case studies from women that have been in our retreats. And I think it would be a great place to start.
Awesome. I'll link all of those things up in the show notes. So, if you listeners have a burning customer experience question, you can submit your question anonymously or leave your details for a little shout out via the link in the show notes. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with anyone who might be remotely interested. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time.